Paul Pratt. Gateway Development Consortium is back again. Hey, Mr. Paul, how are you today?
Hey, good morning, Robert. How are you?
I'm well. Let me ask you.
Sounds like a memorandum of misunderstanding for us.
It's MOM is what we're calling it. At the end of yesterday's City Council session, with the addendums and the vote and the changes to the Memorandum of Understanding, at the end of the day yesterday, are you feeling good? You feeling bad? Tell us what you're thinking.
Well, first, we want to thank those council men and women that did vote in favor of this. We feel good. I mean, this just starts the engagement process. And so we're very positive about the outcome, and we're looking forward to sitting down and making this a reality.
Paul, they put some things on your plate. One being they want to see a commitment from the state on the municipal complex within a year. Is that realistic?
I mean, that was already on the plate. I mean, everything that the initial LOI and MOU entailed was already there. This just helps us to streamline and put things more specific. There are 6 agenda items that we will be able to handle. I mean, it was already there. So,
what about the financing? That was pretty specific. They want to see financing for 500 housing units. How close are you to that?
Well, I mean, the process started last night or yesterday. In order to advance to the private sector and to raise the finances, I mean, we needed a commitment from the city. Part of the MOU is just an agreement to a partnership.
So you interpret yesterday's vote by the council, in spite of the fact that they sort of are balking at using the term Memorandum of Understanding, did you and your folks at GDC, did you take it as a Memorandum of Understanding?
Well, whatever they want to call it, we accept it as long as we're sitting down at the table and coming up with the final agreement. I think this just gets us there.
It looks like also that that at that table when you sit down, the council wants it to be you guys and the mayor. Are you comfortable that that's going to happen, that's going to move pretty quickly?
Well, we hope the mayor wants to sit down and advance this agenda item. I mean, we can sit back and do nothing and watch our city decline, or we can do something now, or we can do something later. But the option of not doing anything is just not there.
Speaking of involvement by the mayor as relates to the MOU, it seems to me that Miss Ollie originally sort of kicked it back to the council, and that yesterday the council sort of kicked it back to the mayor. Do you guys feel that way at all? Are you sort of concerned by the, I don't want to say unwillingness of anybody involved to put their foot down, as it were? Is that of concern to you guys at all?
We're not concerned. We just know that, we're further along the process than we were a few weeks ago. And if the mayor decides she wants to take the lead, and it's clear that she doesn't, or the council wants to take the lead, we just know that we got to do something.
You told some folks after the meeting yesterday that you, and I'm maybe misquoting you, so help me out here, that you could be breaking ground as early as 18 months from now. Is that accurate? And what would you be breaking ground on?
Well, that was always the message that, if we can get this thing advanced, I mean, 18 months from now, we could be, at least turning dirt. And I mean, that message still stands.
What would be first, Paul? What would you break ground for first? What would be the first building to be built?
Well, the municipal complex would be the very first, but, that's a part of the master plan agreement. So we got to sit down with the mayor's staff and the engineers and our team and master plan this whole design.
We had City Councilman Michael Corbin on last hour, and he said in his mind, he was one of the nay votes yesterday, he said in his mind that the process as it is currently, as it's in the pipeline, so to speak, he says he feels as though the whole thing is sort of backwards. Do you know what he means by that, and do you think that's a fair criticism?
Don't know what he means. I have talking to Councilman Corbin, and I'm hoping he's for economic development, and this is a process that most developers start. You have to get support from the city in order to bring in the private sector. I know this is new, to the city to have a public-private partnership, but that's what it is.
And in speaking with Mr. Corbin, what we sort of inferred was that he and maybe a couple of other council people are still unclear as to what it is that GDC, representing whomever, wants from Shreveport. Can you clarify that for us a little bit, based on the presentation? What does GDC want from the city?
We were always clear about infrastructure improvements. I mean, it's no different from the recent Krogers that came in. I'm quite sure the city provided some infrastructure improvements.
Pardon me. As a matter of fact, Mr. Michael said that usually the city does not do infrastructure. So
well, there was only 2 cases that we've seen that infrastructure improvement didn't take place, and that was in Southern Trace and Lone Lake. But the city always participates in economic or infrastructure improvement. That's a part of incentivizing a company to move to Shreveport or any city.
Paul, let me.
That's always been clear.
Let me ask you this: the vote that they took last night, does this now begin the process of you bringing in financing? Does that help speed that up?
Was that enough for you?
Well, on Monday, we brought our developer from Janus Property in, and he talked about that process. And he also indicated that there would be no finance movement unless there's a memorandum of understanding. No investor wants to come to town, and they got to go through the political process and raise money. So that's why we have local people that are participating that are tax-paying citizens that want to see this city survive.
But did you take, so we're back to my original question earlier on, did Janus interpret yesterday's letter as a memorandum of understanding? If Janus isn't willing to move until there's an MOU, was yesterday, in your mind, an MOU?
Well, we'll say yesterday's movement was very positive. We're going to convene today. Janus was not in town on yesterday, and we'll figure out what that is. And then we may have to sit down with the council to figure that out. But it's a very positive move. What is
Janus's what is the collective time frame that you're giving the city of Shreveport for what would be an acceptable memorandum of understanding? Is there one?
Well, we're in no rush. I mean, we've done our due diligence to educate them about what our plans are. And there's still a lot of work. The next step is to go to the state. I mean, we've already had some conversation, and we got to complete those conversations. Because even the state doesn't want to come in, and they have to maneuver through some political games.
Paul, and we're talking to Paul Pratt with the GDC. Let me ask you this, Paul. Were you may have been at the meeting or watched. I was kind of squirming watching it. It got kind of nasty, and I know you didn't want it to go there. Were you uncomfortable with how this has kind of come down here at the end?
Well, there were some uncomfortable moments in the meeting, and I was there for the full meeting. I mean, but there were just citizens expressing, their displeasure of the city not moving forward, and I respect that. That's part of our democracy.
And Councilman Corbin also told us this morning he would rather see us move in the effort of let's do RFPs, requests for proposals. Let's see what other development groups are out there that are willing to invest in Cross Bayou.
Well, I think we've had over 100 years to do that. And there's been studies after studies since the 50s to talk about Cross Bayou and how we move forward. But there's been no development. So RFP could have been done back in 1950. And here's 2018. There's still no development. So we're the only one at the table right now.